Welcome back to Royals Review for episode 3. Following Reading 2, Wigan 0. It's going to be a very positive podcast. And I'm joined once again by Jimmy Boy, who, of course, was at the game on Saturday. Let's start off, Jim. Tell us all the reasons why you're on top of the world at the moment.
Yep. Again, Reading were fantastic. They were playing some really nice football. 2-0. I think they controlled the whole game. Wigan really didn't have too much to offer. They didn't really look that decent as a team. I think their fans probably know that too. I know we put out a picture of how many were there in attendance. Not trying to throw any shade or anything, but it definitely caught a few nibbles. But I think it did sort of go to show where they are right now as a club. It wasn't too good for them. I can't really think of any decent chances that they had. But yeah, Reading on the other hand, fantastic. Kelvin again, fantastic on the wing. I thought his decision making was great. He's really starting to improve. For him, it must be really natural to just like go for goal every time being a striker. But yeah, he was picking out Smith with some really decent crosses. There was one chance which Smith probably should have found the back of the net with, but he put it right over the bar from a few yards out. So yeah, Kelvin, another great game on the wing. I thought Michael Craig looked slightly out of place and couldn't link up with Mbenge, which led to a lot of possession loss. I'm still not fully convinced of Craig as a fullback, but from what I saw afterwards, everyone was hyping about him. The stats showed that he had a really decent game. So maybe I was tripping and just wasn't paying enough attention or catching him at bad times. Dorset, I thought, played really well in the first half against what I thought was one of Wigan's better players. Not too sure what his name is. I think it's Rankin. It was their winger, obviously. He was good. He was good. Decision making in the final third wasn't great. You know, we had some. I mentioned earlier, Smith put one over from a couple of yards. We had some fantastic chances in the first half, and arguably should have been up more than just 1-0 at half time. Again, midfield were the clear standouts. I think wing Elliott and Savage were all fantastic. Perhaps lacked Nibs's tenacity in the sort of like final third, I guess. He puts in so many tackles, that guy. But all three of them were really good, I thought. My man of the match, I am going to give it to Charlie Savage. Definitely close between him and Elliott, but I'm going with Charlie. I said recently that he's done everything. He's been everywhere, but just hasn't really done. Sorry, he's been everywhere, but hasn't really done anything. But against Wigan, he did. Popped up, got his goal, second goal of the week, and yeah, did his homework. It was rehearsed from what I read afterwards, and yeah, he just looked great. He filled in at numerous positions as well throughout the game. So yeah, my man of the match goes to Charlie Savage. But overall, fantastic game. Really looking forward to Wrexham.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something there, kind of on the back of the Charlie Savage thing you mentioned. Obviously, 2 goals in 2 games within the space of a week. So very well done to him. But one thing that I noticed is that Reading and Wigan are the 2 youngest squads in League One this season. And I came away with that. I mean, that's not a surprise to me. Obviously, we know that a lot of the Reading players are very young. But I think against Wigan, we saw a really mature performance. And again, like, it's all credit to the players. But, Savage especially is super young. Bindon super young. And they really, really don't look out of place. So massive credit to all of them. And then, yeah, as I said, Wigan, also a very young squad. We completely dominated them. And yeah, we looked the mature side. They looked the inexperienced one. And well, ultimately, yeah, we win 2-0, and I think it's pretty comfortable. Could have even been more. Um, I won't comment on the Wigan fans who seem to have taken offence. Really weren't trying to do that. I was actually more thinking fair play to make the journey when you're not very good. But we know about that last season, and we made loads of trips too. So fair play to the Wigan fans that did come down. One other key takeaway from the game is a certain somebody was in attendance that may have a huge impact on Reading and their chances this season, and that is, of course, Mr. Rob Couhig. I hope I'm saying your name right. I think I am. Who we know has had previous ownership experience at Wycombe and looks to be our saviour. Finally praying, getting rid of De Jong after a very treacherous few years, and in fact a pretty poorly run, at least 6 or 7 years now. So it really is a long time coming. I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I'm absolutely buzzing that this looks like it's about to happen this week. And it could be coming at the right time, actually. Well, any time was the right time because we needed Diagon, but with still a little bit of time left in the window, yeah, the timing could be ideal. We will talk about the signings in a bit, Jim, but anything to say on Rob Couhig and team, or just more happiness like me?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just long overdue now, isn't it? Everyone has known that it's been in the pipeline for some time now, and it sounds like it's going to be wrapped up in the next couple of days and officially announced. So yeah, it's really, really decent to finally get over that last hurdle and get a new owner into the club. But yeah, not too much longer to act in the transfer window. Hopefully, we can get a few new faces through the door. But like you said, the younger players just look so experienced, and having that year, that whole season, last season, to play as such a tight knit squad, I think has really sort of paid off. I remember when we signed Ben Elliott, for example, there were some accounts that focus on the Chelsea academy, and they were saying that it wasn't long ago where he was at the same level as Jamal Musiala. And I'm not saying he's like Musiala now, but he looked like a fantastic player in both games that I've been to this season so far. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the run for our player of the season come the end of the season if he continues to play like that. So yeah, and I know we mentioned last week as well, or a couple of weeks back. I don't think there needs to be an overhaul of signings or any marquee signings, if that can even be a thing when you don't have any money to spend, or all the embargoes that we may or may not still be under. But yeah, it will be good to get a couple of additions through the door before the transfer window closes.
Yeah, nice. And I know you've done some research into some of those players, and I've got a few stats to go through, so we will jump onto that shortly. But one last thing on the takeover is I just kind of wanted to talk about. There are so many reasons to be positive about Reading FC at the moment. Imminent takeover, the squad are playing out of their skins. Is just looking a completely different team and atmosphere and everything to what we have been through over the last few years. So if you're on the fence about going to any of the games, obviously Wrexham sold out. Unfortunately, we couldn't even get a ticket for that. But any of the home games coming up, please do get down there. Take your family, take your friends, take your wife, take your boyfriend, whatever. Take everyone. Go and support the boys, because you will have a great day out at the very least, and they will play for you, as we've seen already this season. So yeah, get down there. There's plenty to be positive about if you are a Reading fan. Maybe some things to be even more positive about then, Jim, if we can make a few signings, whether that be loans or frees. As I said, you've done some research into some potential players that would be a nice fit for Reading. So I'll let you kick off with your first one.
Yeah, so, and just as a disclaimer, as of 8:35 on Monday, the 19th of August, none of these players have been signed by another club. So don't want anyone popping up to me on Twitter saying so plays for this club now. But yeah, I've taken a look at 4 players in areas where I think we most need improvements. But over the last few preseason games and what we've seen so far since the league's kicked off, it seems like there's a lot of players that are covering positions that aren't natural to them, but they're also doing quite well. So it kind of made all of these decisions a little bit harder. It kind of made me think like you have to look a little bit deeper into who these players are and where they can play out of position, not just where the natural position is as well. So yeah, I think these four players fit in really nicely to what we currently have in the squad. Yeah, without sort of taking away any opportunities from any of the younger players that are coming through as well. So first up, and probably probably the area that needs the most improvement, left back, I've gone with Callum Scanlon, who is under 21's Liverpool player. They signed him from Birmingham City a few years ago for about £500,000, if I remember correctly. And he's just continued to improve since. He's made the bench in Europe for Liverpool. He's clearly part of their future plans. But, he's not got any senior experience, so it's time for a loan. And yeah, I think he'd get plenty of minutes at left back for Reading. He's great going forwards, which I think is probably what Dorset lacks at the moment. He's a centre half. You can't really expect him to do too much in terms of attacking. So yeah, I think Scanlon from Liverpool would be my go-to, and is probably quite a realistic sign too. They've got a few other players in that position that are maybe slightly ahead of Scanlon, but you'd expect them to end up at Championship clubs, really.
Yeah, there isn't too much men's experience to talk about, but as you say, he's looked quite good in PL2. He's looked pretty comfortable on the ball going forward. He's played 51 minutes in Europe for Liverpool's first team. And the only thing I've noticed is that he had a 89.3% pass accuracy, which is obviously pretty good. But yeah, only 51 minutes to pick from. So I don't really have too many stats that can back him up. But a realistic signing, and as you say, it's a position that we could do with strengthening, even if it is as a backup. But yeah, we're a little light on the left back position. Who have you got next?
Yep. So next up, and it's a name that I've seen mentioned quite a few times. I think there's probably quite a few people that would be keen to get this guy through the door. And it is Timothy Ayoma, who played for Lincoln last season. Yeah, solid League One centre back. Yeah, obviously Lincoln had a pretty decent season last season. His contract expired, so he's currently a free agent and he's yet to find a new club. And again, like I said, he can fill in at right back, or if we get another centre back that's on that sort of right side. We've seen Mbenge play as a right back. It just gives a few more options for that right back position whilst Yeardom's out and Brafer isn't getting as much of a looking as he may have thought. So yeah, Timothy Ayoma on a free transfer is my second pick.
Yeah, I don't dislike that. He's obviously well versed at the level. Played plenty of games. I actually noticed when he was playing for Lincoln last year, he scored 3 goals. So I'm never going to be upset at a centre back scoring goals, albeit that the ones we already have are more than capable of doing that too. But as you mentioned, this isn't necessarily players to come in and replace any of the players we have, but it's more to strengthen the squad. Because yeah, we are quite light in some positions more than others. Who's your next pick, Jim?
Next up, someone who I imagine a lot of people are familiar with already. Again, another free agent, Fred Edinma, previously of Luton, and one of the signings of the Couhig era at Wycombe. Yeah, he's had his best years in League One. Now in his prime. Obviously, he was at Luton last. Didn't really get many opportunities there. Went on loan to Rotherham last season. Obviously, got relegated from the Championship. I guess he's at that stage of his career where he might be considering a move abroad. But he'd be a fantastic option to relieve pressure on Kelvin and Smith, I guess. If Kelvin's playing on the wing, we've only really got Wareham as a replacement for Smith. So yeah, if we get Onyedinma in, we free up Kelvin to cover Smith, as well as having another option on the wing. So yeah, I've gone for Onyedinma.
Very nice. Yeah, and another player that like the last one is well versed at the level, and has even played higher up. I think he actually played 8 times for Luton in the Prem last season, albeit not 90 minutes. He's got 407 minutes. But he's only there for a short time, so he's got Premier League experience, he's got Championship experience, he's got League One experience, and as you say, age-wise, he's looking pretty okay. Could definitely be worth getting in. He's another player that pops up with some goals. I'm looking particularly at that Wickham season because you mentioned he was one of the first signings in the Couhig era there, which coincidentally is his best season, and Wickham is where he's played the most. 6 goals in that first season in 14 starts, 16 appearances. So that's not too bad among the assists too. So yeah, could be a nice addition there. And you've got one more, I believe.
Yeah, I do. This is someone who's previously been linked with Reading last season, I think. Ended up at Blackpool, which didn't go too well, and then at Port Vale, and that is Jensen Weir, who is from Brighton. I'm not sure if his contract's expired, but because I couldn't find too many details, it looks like he has been assigned a squad number at Brighton, so this would be a loan deal. But yeah, he's a player that can cover all areas of midfield, so he'd be great backup for Nibs, Wing, or Savage. And obviously, with Nibs being out, I do feel like it's important we get in the more sort of attack-minded midfielder. I know, you could push Wing up into that position, but I think how we've seen Wing play so far, he tends to be that link between the defence and the attack. So yeah, I'd go for Jensen Weir. I'm sure you've got some stats on how he performed at Morecambe, which are really impressive.
Yeah, well, scored 10 goals, 5 assists in the 22-23 season for Morecambe. I've just read that he's the youngest player ever to play for Wigan. He played for Wigan at 15 years old. So there must be something there if they've seen him at 15 and thought we'll give him a spin. You mentioned he's been linked with Reading multiple times, and yeah, we all know he has, and he's gone elsewhere, and well, by the looks of things, not really had much of a chance to play. Barely played for Blackpool last season, made 4 starts, so yeah, not great. But yeah, that season at Morecambe really does excite me because yeah, League One experience, scoring a nice amount of goals. In fact, I'd say that goal goal and assist output is very Lewis Wing esque from last season. So I wouldn't put anyone who makes the decisions at Reading off buying a player that's going to have the same goal output as Lewis Wing, because yeah, you all know that I absolutely adore that guy.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. If you look at any videos of Jensen Weir, you'll be able to see just how well he plays in sort of all those small central midfield positions, whether it's a bit deeper or whether he's playing a little bit closer to the attack. Yeah, he's a great player, but yeah, he needs to kick on now. This will be his, if he was to come on loan, this would be his 4th League One loan. So yeah, I feel like he'd probably think it's quite make or break now. But with the squad that we've got and the amount of games that we're going to be playing, we're going to need constant rotation in midfield, and to have a player like him that can slot in anywhere, would be really important, and yeah, a quality signing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for taking us through your signings there. Obviously, they're all hypothetical because we still don't have confirmation on Couhig's arrival, although it looks imminent. It would be absolutely lovely, and I'm hoping that we have it this week. So the next time we speak, Jim, we will be under a completely new regime, one that's full of happiness and no more issues. Let's very briefly touch on Wrexham then, Jim. I know we hadn't planned to, but I realised we should.
Yep.
They are obviously fresh off a 0-0 against Bolton after winning their first game in League One. Fairy tale stuff for Wrexham as they've gone up through the leagues under their new ownership, but not having things all their own way in League One, and maybe they won't quite find it so easy as they have done in their previous seasons where they've gone straight up. I think Reading are going to give them a huge game here. Obviously, Wrexham are the home side, and Reading are on their travels. But from what we saw against Birmingham, that away day hoodoo that we had last season is well gone. I think Reading really have the tools here to hurt Wrexham, and I mean, I'd absolutely love it. From the things I see from Wrexham fans on Twitter, it would be awesome if we could go up there and spoil their party. Any thoughts from you? I know I've not given you any time to prepare.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said, really. I'm not sure if they're the strongest side that got promoted. I do think Stockport look like, from what I've seen, they look like they play better football and they've got the better signings this transfer window. But yeah, I've seen the results. They're obviously a good side. They've got a lot of experience. I think it might be the hardest game so far. I think it might be more difficult. I wouldn't actually say Birmingham looked particularly difficult. Like we mentioned before, I think we were unlucky to come away without 3 points. But yeah, look, Reading are playing the best football that I've seen them play in a long time. There's no reason I don't think that they could be Wrexham. Sorry. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, the last time Reading played Wrexham away was in December. In fact, it was on your birthday in December in 2001, Jim. 2-0 win for the Royals. So hopefully Sellers can get the boys in check and we can get another 2-0 win in Wales. That brings us to a close then of episode 3. As always, give us a follow across all the socials. Like it if you like what you see, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps help these reach the right people. And thanks again for your support. Jim, I'll speak to you soon. But until then, come on, you Rs.
See you, mate.